Hello, I'm Rebecca, the founder of triiyo, and welcome to Pep Talks with triiyo. triiyo is the leading solution for workplaces to support their people during every life transition, from starting a family to retiring and every life event in between. On Pep Talks with triiyo, we chat to our expert partners for advice on how to best navigate these common, complex, and often messy life stages that happen during our working career. Keep listening as we connect the dots between life and work with the simple aim of education and empowerment. After all, life happens at work. Today on Pep Talks with triiyo, we're speaking with Chibs Okereke, Stress and Burnout Coach, meditation teacher and accredited mindfulness facilitator. He's also a meditation instructor and narrator for Calm, the #1 app for sleep, meditation and relaxation. Today, we're going to be discussing how to shoot for the stars without burning out. Chibs, welcome. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
Firstly, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Yeah, well, as you said, I'm a stress and burnout coach. I'm also a meditation teacher. And yeah, I guess what my main skill is, or the main tool that I'll use with my clients is mindfulness meditation. But when it comes to reducing stress and burnout, I'll use any trick in the book. So basically, I teach individuals, teams, and organizations how to reduce stress, how to reduce the risk of burnout, and how to get more done in less time.
So before we move into this shoot for the stars, how did you come to be in this position? What's your background?
Yeah, so I was an entrepreneur. So I moved to Australia maybe about 17 years ago. And I just finished my master's in organizational psychology. So the idea was to come over to Australia, spend a year here and have some fun, and then go back and become a work psychologist. But I ended up starting up a business, ended up being pretty good at that. And then I ended up just chasing what I thought was success at the time. But yeah, it just turned out to be chasing the money, chasing the status, chasing this success that I was looking for. And then eventually over time, things started getting a little bit more difficult. And one of my companies took a turn for the worse, maybe about 7 years ago, something like that. And I just realized I didn't have any resilience left. So with hindsight, I'd been burning myself out on the way up. And then when I got to a really difficult stage in my life, I ended up having no resilience no resilience. And then what ended up happening was, I just had a really massive burnout. It was probably about, took the course of maybe, 9 months of really burning out and trying to save this company. And I was just totally exhausted, totally cynical, totally negative, probably lost about 30 or 40 IQ points in the process. And then I just had to, I had to give up everything that I was doing, and I had to basically recover and reset and just resign from everything that I had anything to do with, wound one of the companies up, resigned from everything else, and then just spent probably about a year or two recovering. And during that recovery period, mindfulness was one of the tools that I found. And I realized that it was a really very practical, straightforward technique to help reduce stress and to help me kind of get back on track. And I guess I thought that maybe it wasn't being taught in a way that resonated with me. So, self-identified striver, maybe I call myself an ex-striver now, but didn't really resonate with, the kind of spiritual side of things, didn't really resonate with me. The kind of softer side of mindfulness didn't really resonate with me. But I thought, this is a really practical technique, a practical tool. And if it was pitched in the right way, then I could see it being really popular for people like me, maybe a little bit more skeptical, a little bit more materialistic, a bit more ambitious, the kind of A-types, the go-getters, the strivers. So I figured that I could find a way of teaching it and bringing it into corporate, which is, what my background is. Hopefully helping all these people out there reduce their stress and reduce their risk of burnout. It seems to be a bigger problem than ever at the moment.
Isn't it? And I think you're right. Those strivers and the A-types are the ones that absolutely need it, but they maybe are not even aware of it. It sounds like you had nothing left in the tank when you actually needed it. So I hear a lot. That's what a lot of people are saying right now. So if we then look at that sort of concept of, being an A-type or wanting to strive and, still want to shoot for the stars, what's your advice? Tell me more about how people can achieve this or achieve what they want to achieve without the burnout or without the grind and the hustle that actually leaves you completely depleted and really not achieving anything that you want to achieve.
Yeah. So, I mean, you said the word hustle there, and I can remember it was probably about a year and a half ago when I ended up getting my contract from Calm. And one of my friends texted me, said, yeah, you've been hustling hard these last few years. So, well done. And I was like, oh, got triggered. I was like, I don't hustle. I'm a mindfulness teacher. I'm super Zen now and I'm super calm and super relaxed. Then I thought, you know what? I am a hustler, or I have been a hustler in the past, So when I was a kid, I was like, probably a hustler. When I was in corporate, I was a corporate hustler. And it was always about really, working hard and this whole hustle culture that we've got now, having second incomes and passive incomes and hustle and go get. That word to me just triggers me and just equals burnout to me now. Hustle. But again, if I was to look deeply inside me, I am that hustler. There is something inside me that wants to get things done, that wants to shoot for the stars, right? So, and I thought, well, I am hustling in a way, but I'm doing it very gently, So if there was a book and, this is kind of my framework, I call it Mindfulness for Strivers. Subtitle would be The Art of the Gentle Hustle, right? So it's how do we move along? How do we progress, but without burning out? So for me, what my insight has been over the last few years, and because I really needed to analyze, like, why was I able to be successful and kind of make steady progress over the last few years without burning out and feeling pretty good about life and not being stressed out? A little bit of stress, but not chronic stress. Okay. There's no days that I'm waking up and I'm, oh God, take me away from all this, which would have been the case back in the day. I would have,
quite unusual in this last period of time. Like, everyone else is burning out. So if you've, managed to do what you've done and achieve what you've done in that time frame and not burnt out, then there's obviously something in it.
Yeah, right. And so I've kind of thought deeply about it, and luckily for me, my job now is to think deeply about things, and and so I can spend a lot of time researching and introspecting and kind of trying to work out what the hell's going on in this weird world that we're in. And I kind of, this is maybe a bit of a visual, bit of a metaphor, but for me, there's a fire inside the belly of a striver. Okay. And in that fire, we can either use that fire to energize us and fuel us forward, if we've got the right container for that fire. If we haven't got the right container for that fire, then that fire can very quickly turn into that excitement and warmth can very quickly turn into angst and anxiety. And it can eventually burn us out if we don't have control of that fire. Right. So I was trying to think, so what has been protecting me over the last few years anyway for, from burning out? Why does this fire feel good inside my belly rather than feeling like anxiety like it used to? Some days it would feel good. A lot of days it would feel like anxiety. So why have I been able to just keep this fire inside me burning and energizing me forward? And one of the things that has been really a game changer for me were the 9 attitudes of mindfulness. So when I started my journey of mindfulness all those years ago, we were taught about the intention side of mindfulness. So that's the kind of hard focus, let's call it, the kind of masculine energy of mindfulness. It's the concentration, the focus, the moving forward, goal oriented. And then we have the attitude side of mindfulness. So it's like, how are we doing things? And the 9 attitudes are things like letting go, acceptance, beginner's mind, trust, gratitude, generosity, non-striving, non-judgment, patience, right? So back in the day, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds nice. Something for the ladies, but me, I'm all about the focus and the hard intention side of mindfulness. And then a few years ago, I realized, you know what? And I think it was probably just as COVID was hitting, I didn't know what the hell was going on. The world, I didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow, let alone in a year's time. So everything was very, very uncertain. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to really go back to my practice, go back to my mindfulness. And the things that I started focusing on were actually the attitudes of mindfulness, because I had to let go. I had to just accept things the way they were. So I almost had no option but to turn to the softer side of mindfulness. And then all of a sudden, life got so easy for me, because I'm not all of a sudden trying to control everything. I'm not super goal orientated anymore. By all means, have your goals, and I'll talk about the other container in a second, but I wasn't so attached to my goals. Okay. And I became very much more accepting of things the way they are, grateful for the situation that I was in. So bringing in all those softer attitudes of mindfulness. And not only did that help me progress forward, ironically, because all of a sudden now I'm just being patient. So I'm just planting seeds. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not attached to the outcome. And then 6 months later, oh, I remember that seed that you planted over there. Here comes a client booking you in. And then all of a sudden things started building. So I wasn't chasing people up. I wasn't doing what I normally would have done. And let's say hustling. I was just doing the work, putting one foot in front of the other, trusting that the universe has my back, trusting that what I'm doing is taking me to where I want to be. And just being patient, accepting things the way they are, and and not striving as hard, not pushing as hard. So that's one aspect. And then there's purpose. I was very, very strong in my purpose. So I'm doing this because, one, I want to work on myself. I want to make myself the best version of me. I want to help my mental health as much as possible. And at the same time, I want to, as I learn, as I work on myself, I want to teach, right? So I knew what my purpose was, and I wanted to be the stress and burnout guy, right? There's no stress and burnout guy that I can think of. So when someone thinks about stress and burnout, I want to be that person, right? So that was my purpose. That was my kind of reason for being here. Very strong in that, very clear on my purpose, and very good attitude, like letting go, accepting things the way they are, just easy breezy, like wherever I went, not getting caught up in the small things. And then I realized you don't need to make that much effort when you've got a great attitude and you know where you're going and you've got a strong purpose. So yeah, that's kind of where my mindfulness for strivers framework came in. So I realize now when I work with my clients, the very first thing that I do with them is work on their purpose. Okay, what is your purpose? What are your top 5 values? What are your top 5 strengths? What are your top 5 passions? What are the areas of your life that you want to focus on? All right, remind yourself of that, and then come up with some sort of a purpose statement, mission statement. So you've got that guiding force, that is that kind of voice in the back of your head that's kind of guiding you forwards. So if times get tough, then you can just remind yourself what your purpose is, and okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then also makes it much easier for you to decide, okay, well, should I be doing that or should I be doing that? Well, does it align with my purpose or not? So now it doesn't take me very long to make a decision. I kind of go, yeah, that works for me. No, that doesn't work for me. So I'm not wasting any time thinking about things and making decisions like I used to. So I'm just not wasting any effort. And so that's why my life feels so much easier now, because I'm much clearer. And when I come up against any resistance, any pressure, any difficulty, I kind of go, do I need to do that? That's one thing, is it, is there some sort of, do I need to push? Can I just let that tension go? Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. So let's say I can let the tension go. All right, cool. Keep doing what I'm doing. Now I'm doing Now I'm still moving forward, but I'm moving forward in a relaxed way. But then if I just can't shift it just by deciding I want to shift it or deciding that I want to let it go, then I go through my Rolodex of mindful attitudes. Right? What attitude am I not bringing to this moment right now? So maybe I'm being impatient. Maybe I'm not letting things unfold in their own pace. Maybe I'm being judgmental. Maybe I'm not looking at this the right way. Maybe I need to look at this with a beginner's mind rather than my expert mindset. Maybe I'm not grateful for what I've got right now. So I go through and I see what attitude am I not bringing to this moment right now? And then I transform that attitude, and that makes that moment easier. And then string easy moments together, enough of them, and then you get this general sense of well-being and ease as you flow through the world, rather than fight, and then go home and drink a bottle of wine and pass out and then go again. Maybe, or wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and think about all the things that you haven't done, So I don't
wake up at 3 a.m. and put you on Carmat, maybe.
There you go. And I'll send you back to sleep again. Yeah.
When you're talking about the sort of push, I think, and then obviously the receive, it sort of speaks to me that you've got the action masculine orientated side of someone, and then the more feminine receptive, receive, sit back and receive. And I think it's, what sort of came up for me then is actually it's quite hard when you're, I guess, on a road towards burnout. It's until you're almost stopped in your tracks, and then you have no other choice but to receive. When you're in that striving sort of mindset, we actually only feel that the only option is to do and take action and to keep going here. That concept of actually sowing the seeds, pausing, and then waiting for them to sort of harvest and bloom, I think can be quite hard for people. How do you sort of get people to change that mindset or behavior, which is pretty ingrained?
Yeah, well, if people are coming to me, then they're looking for solutions, right? Yeah. So I've learned a long time ago not to give unsolicited advice. So by all means, if you want to keep going and pushing through and burning yourself out and hustling hard, you're welcome to do that. I think people work it out eventually, right? So again, I'm in no rush to change the world. But if you want to come to me as a client, then what I'll do, the first thing I do is work on the purpose piece. Because what I found is, because before, if you'd spoken to me a year ago, what do you do? I'd be like, I do practical tools to reduce stress and burnout. I teach you tools that you can bring out in the midst of your stress, your overwhelm, your challenge, your overthinking. And then I teach you mindfulness meditation practice so that over time, you build up your resilience so that you don't need to bring out your tools as often, right? So that would have been my pitch a year ago. Maybe week 3, week 4, people are like, oh, I'm starting to feel better now, right? Now, I'm working on their purpose from week 1. So session 1, people are like, I remember now, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because part of, what is burnout? Burnout is overwhelming exhaustion. It's negativity and cynicism about your job, about your place in the world. And then it's kind of decreased efficacy in your job, right? So you don't perform as well in your job. So those are the 3 main aspects of burnout. But that negativity and cynicism, that gets dealt with almost instantly if you're clear on your purpose, because then you can kind of go, that's what I'm about. And maybe you can kind of map your purpose and your values to the job that you're doing at the moment, and you can kind of go, actually, my job does satisfy that. So that gives them a bit more of a bounce in their step. And now they're feeling better straight away. Now they're more receptive, and then they can learn the tools at the same time. I teach them to meditate at the same time. And then over time, they're building up the resilience. But we kind of almost get rid of all of that negativity and cynicism. So now we just got to work on the exhaustion and, your job performance. Okay, cool. So just work on the basics. Now, how do you sleep? How do you eat? How do you move? How do you relax? And then we're building up that resilience through a mindfulness meditation practice. And then I'm teaching you the tools to use in various situations. but you're exactly right. It's not natural for the striver, right? So what the striver does, again, we're very much in that masculine, whether you're man, woman, irrelevant, but you're in that kind of yang masculine energy. So I shouldn't have said yang there because we're being corporate, right? So we're in that striving,
I think it's
masculine
good to inject
energy.
some spirituality into the corporate world, to be honest.
There you go. Not too much though. I don't want to trigger them, right?
Otherwise, they don't need to know what you're doing.
But so let me just talk about me for a second, right? I've got enough of that, right? I'm a big 6'7" black bloke from London, right? So I've got enough of that kind of masculine striving energy, right? But what we try and do, we try and add to that. So when times get tough, I want to get even more successful, or I want to get even further. All right, let me be even more like that. Let me be even more like that. Let me be even more like that. Whereas the lowest hanging fruit is this thing over here that's been totally ignored by most strivers, And so, and again, I'm not all about walking around barefoot singing Kumbaya, right? But let's bring that up a little bit. Let's, I can say with almost 100% certainty that every single striver could do with being a bit more patient. Every single striver could do with being able to let go of things, to be able to accept things, to be grateful, to be gentle, right? So we could all do at least a little bit more. And that makes a big difference. Just a little bit over here makes a big difference. So it's all about softening that hard edge. It's not about reducing it. So I'm still happy to stay at this level, but I'm bringing these up here to look after that that energy, so that energy is sustainable. Because otherwise you're up here and then you burn out, and then you have to rest for a day, a weekend, a year, in my case, or you can just bring in this softness. And then for me, whenever I start feeling stressed, that's a sign for me to, okay, bring out my tools, look after myself, let that go, be a bit patient. That's fine. So for me, I'm moving between, like, let's say there's 5 stages of burnout. So we've got honeymoon phase, we've got onset of stress, we've got chronic stress, we've got burnout, we've got habitual burnout. That's where I got to. That's falling off a cliff, kind of nervous system breakdown kind of thing. But I've chosen as a striver to live between honeymoon phase and onset of stress. Okay. And so, but when I'm feeling stressed, all right, that's a sign for me. Okay. Now I need to pull it back. Okay. And I'll actually go one step further. I'll go back to, let's say, stage 0, where I'm bored, I'm quiet, I'm not doing anything, and I'm just resting and I'm recovering. There's no excitement there. But then honeymoon phase, like, that's my favorite place to be, stage 1 of burnout. So I'm living on the edge of burnout, right? That's where I want to live. But I'm going to push it too much and I'm going to feel a bit stressed. Then I'm going to pull it back to 0, and then I'm going to go back to here. Now I'm excited about everything again, and I'm excited about the world. So that's where I teeter between. So state honeymoon phase, onset of stress. But I'll be very surprised if I ever get to chronic stress ever again, because again, I've got the tools and I know where that leads to.
Yeah. So 2 things have come up for me here. When you're talking about your fire burning, it sounds like the ability to manage between yin yang, masculine, feminine, these 2 sides, is being able to manage between these 2 helps you contain your fire, not and keep it burning and healthy and productive. Whereas if you get that balance out of sync, and particularly that you fall into this very pushing, that's almost when you're letting the fire burn you down. I mean, it's the analogy of using a fire for this is brilliant, because we're calling it burnout, right? So when this fire gets out of control, it literally burns you down to the point where there is nothing left and you have no choice but to go back to this side of just receiving and repair and recovery. And then, so I think that's a really sort of amazing visual. And then when you're talking about purpose is the number 1 driver now for people who are, looking to join employers. But what about the people that actually don't know what their purpose is. They've just been, on the treadmill of life, in the hamster wheel, never really stopping to pause and think around, what am I doing? And then suddenly something takes them out and what is my purpose? How do you help people reflect and find what that is for them?
So if I'm working with a client, then I'm going to be getting them to work on, can do pretty simple exercises, and there's stuff you can do for free online as well, but I'm working at, what are your top 5 values? What are your top 5 strengths? What are your top 5 passions? What areas of your life do you want to focus on? So all these things you need to take a pause. And a lot of people aren't prepared to do that, right? So they'd rather watch, and I get it. This is absolutely no judgment. I was the same, they'd rather, when I'm stressed or when I'm feeling lost, I'm just going to turn on the TV and I'm going to sit in front of that for 3 hours rather than spend 3 hours working out what my purpose is. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long to work it out, right? So I can get my clients to do that. As I say, in week 1, take them a couple of hours. So once we've worked out what their values are, what their strengths, areas of focus and passions are, then we kind of craft a purpose statement or a vision statement, so that they've got something, so it kind of sums up who they are, either in a sentence or in a paragraph. Okay. And then that usually, just by doing those exercises, that sparks something in them, and that kind of just gives them that reminder as to why they're here. We often revise it as we're going through, but we just need to start somewhere. So I like to call it the shitty first draft, so that the perfectionism doesn't kick in, because otherwise, it's got to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get something down, right? So I give them a very simple template to kind of fill in. So something along the lines of, I hold my values of X, Y, Z in everything that I do. I want to focus on X, Y, Z. So even if they don't want to be super creative, they've just got a template that they can just plug it into. Okay. And then that gives them the idea of who they are. Then they can boil that down or make it more creative if they want to. But even just by doing those few exercises, which take, let's say, 2 to 3 hours, it kind of really helps to get some clarity on where we're going. But yeah, it took me, I'm pretty old now, and it wasn't top of my mind to work out what my top 5 values are. People think they know why they're doing this, but we don't. We're just programmed in a certain way. So something needs to come along to challenge that program. And for me, that was I need a big slap from the universe to challenge that program, because I was just climbing up the ladder or climbing up the mountain, and I got to the top of this mountain. I've got my, 360-degree views of Sydney, my convertible Mercedes in the garage, a Rolex on my wrist, and, all this money in the bank. And I'm like, but I'm miserable, and I want to neck myself. So what's going on here, right? So this doesn't feel good. And I guess some people learn quicker than others. It took me a while to learn. But hopefully I can work with people before they get to that stage, because that's difficult to come back from. Of course, it's fine. This story has a happy ending. My life is great. But I needed to go through hell in order to listen to the universe and, find mindfulness and, kind of soften those edges, because I just didn't know any other way. That was just how I was programmed.
Yeah, I think that is partly the challenge around society now, isn't it? We are programmed and told that happiness and success is in everything outside of us, and when you're working with people and then obviously inevitably it's not. When you're working with people and sort of asking, well, what is your purpose? What is the meaning of why you get up every day? You're actually asking people to go inwards and sort of find that meaning and discount what we've been told, because that, I guess, what actually goes on inside and what comes up in terms of purpose could actually be vastly different to the life that they have been curating and think that it should be curating, because we just almost do what we're told and what society tells you this is the journey you need to be on. It's incredibly powerful. Now, when you've obviously got lived experience now. If I just go back to your zero, honeymoon, early stage, this barometer, you've got lived experience that you can pull on to go, my barometer is moving past honeymoon into, early stage of stress. When people haven't actually been through that and sort of collapsed, and they don't have that lived experience to go, okay, well, that's what's happened. Often we are just so fast and we don't ever stop. It just becomes life. What are the signs? Like, how would somebody know my barometer is not in honeymoon phase? It's not even a mild stress. I'm like heading towards complete burnout. What are those signs where people should start to stop and rethink?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to have different stress signals, right? And so that's one of the things that is important for us to kind of work out early on. There's some general stress signs, but so when I'm working with a client, I get them to really pay attention to what's going on. And this is what mindfulness is, right? It's what's going on inside the body. Okay, we're bringing awareness to that, because usually we're in our heads, especially the striver. They're always in their heads and they're planning. That's, and that's their, that's their competitive advantage, right? In life, right? They've got generally they've got good brains. But if we're living here too much, then we're not noticing the signs of stress. So for me, I know if I'm getting a pain here, right, that's a sign that I'm getting stressed. For me, I know that if I'm watching that extra episode of some TV show before I go to, and I'm going past my bedtime, or just one more episode, that's a signal to me that stress is coming. If I wake up in the middle of the night, that's a sign that there's some stress in the body. I also kind of tend to pick here when I'm stressed, or I tap my leg. So again, these are all signs. These are all my signs of stress. Other people might have different ones, but we've all got a sign. So those are the kind of the internal signs, I suppose. Then there's behavioral stuff. So if I'm arguing with my daughter a lot, okay, all right, something's going on here, because I'm much cleverer than my daughter, so I should be able to manage a 13-year-old if I'm
regulate
in the right
your emotions
space.
better.
Yeah. So if I'm not dealing well with my daughter, then again, that's another sign that stress is on the way. So sometimes it's like, sometimes you just feel stressed and you're stressed, but other times you don't know that you're stressed and you're just pushing through. Then your body will tell you. So this is what this whole listening to your body is all about. And I didn't get that. I used to do yoga back in the day, and the teacher would be like, "Oh, listen to your body." And I have no idea what you're talking about. But now I kind of get it. Your body's kicking out these physiological signals, and it's telling you, it's indicating what your state of health is like, And so if we're able to tune into that, and again, it could be something as simple as noticing when your leg is tapping. You can't see now, but my leg is tapping, right? trying to demonstrate, but you can't see, unfortunately. But or if like my body's telling me that I'm stressed if I'm picking here.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what that means. I haven't quite worked out where that comes to in the fight or flight. Maybe it's something to do with clenching into a fist and getting ready to fight. I don't know what the biological reason for that is, but those are my signs. So I'll notice that sometimes and then I can check in and go, all right, what's going on here? There's stress in the body. Why is there stress? All right, can I let that go? Yeah, all right, cool. That's gone now. All right, carry on doing what I'm doing. So I'm just regulating, but then maybe I can't, maybe it's not shifting by just that decision to relax my body. Okay, so then I go through my attitudes of mindfulness and do that. If it's still not working, all right, then I need to go and meditate for 10 minutes or do something else or shut up shop for the day. So I'm listening to what's going on in my environment. Sometimes I've got no choice and I have to push through. Like in the middle of a presentation, I can't, if I'm in the middle of this and I'm starting to feel anxious, I'm not going to be that person. I just need to take some personal time and, I'm going to push through, but you shouldn't be pushing through 24/7. Right. So I push through on the rare occasion. when I need to. That's fine. The body can handle that. You know, the body's very good at dealing with even massive amounts of stress. You know, even if a bear comes along and tries to attack me, as long as it doesn't kill me, it's not going to do any damage to my nervous system. A one-off encounter with a bear, nervous system is fine. It's what it's designed for. But this low level of fight or flight that many of us are in, you know, day to day, just a little bit anxious, a little bit unsure, a little bit worried, a little bit overthinking. That means that we're just in fight or flight the whole time. And our body just gets used to that. Now we're in chronic stress. Now the body's just waiting for the stress to come along and is looking for the stress at all times. So the body feels like it's in danger. So it literally feels like there's danger in the environment, but you know, nothing's coming to kill us. So it's a waste of our resources to be in that low level of fight or flight, and it distracts us from whatever we want to do. And again, sometimes we don't know what we want to do, and that's part of the problem. So let's work out what what our purpose is and what we want to do. So it's all kind of comes in together. And yeah, I don't really know where the best place to start is, but for me, my experience and my clients, purpose is the number one thing, because then from that you can kind of work off, all right, so now I know what my purpose is, I know what I need to get there, and maybe a mindfulness practice will be that thing that helps you get to your purpose. Maybe taking it easy on yourself will be that thing that helps you get to your purpose. So yeah, you've got to work out why you're here, so that you know, then maybe you can work out, is it worth killing myself for? You know, and I would suggest that not many things worth killing yourself for, but if your purpose is strong enough, you know, I don't know, Lewis Hamilton, for instance, his purpose is to be the fastest thing on earth. All right, cool. So it's worth risking his life for that. But maybe that's his purpose. But certainly if you're in a regular job or doing what I do, it's not worth killing myself over, right? So, all right, let me take it easy on myself and, you know, bring in some of that feminine energy and nurture myself, look after myself, give myself a little hug when I need it.
So I think there's nothing wrong with having, you know, a little bit of feminine energy in our worlds. Chibs, this has been amazing. It sounds like purpose is the perfect place to start. Meditation and mindfulness, which obviously download the Calm app. It's free. You can.
It's not free, unfortunately, but it's free for 7 days.
Well, there you go. You can try it out for free, and be soothed to sleep by yourself and thousands of other people every night. But you know, it sounds like meditation and mindfulness is a great tool for everyone to start with. You know, find your purpose, get that as one of your tools, and then you're on that road. It's been amazing talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. To find out more about how triiyo can support your people, visit triiyo.com.